Hi, this is Brad Linder with Liliputing, and I want to do a quick review of the Amazon Kindle Fire, which is a 7-inch device that is sort of the Kindle for videos, music, movies, and applications, as well as reading books. So whereas the original Kindle device was really a device aimed primarily at reading books, this takes advantage of all of the digital services that Amazon has to offer. In terms of hardware design, there's not much to look at. There's a headphone jack, micro USB port, and a power button on the bottom, and stereo speakers on the top, and that's it. There's nothing else around the sides. The back has the Kindle logo, and it's got a sort of soft touch here, which makes it relatively easy to grip, but you're gripping glass on the front, which makes it a little bit easy to slip as well. Overall, and as you can see here, it's kind of shiny in certain lighting conditions. Just turn off the screen for a second here. Hi. It's the screen quality is pretty good, but it's maybe a little bit less or a little bit more glare friendly than, say, the Nook tablet here, and the viewing angles on both are pretty much the same. They're both 7-inch 1024 by 600 pixel displays, but the viewing angles are maybe a tiny bit better on the Nook. But overall, you get a pretty good experience for the $200 tablet here with the Kindle Fire. Now, as I mentioned, there's only the one button, so power, swipe to turn on. And in terms of the glare, we're getting sort of a lot of extra glare right now because I'm using a light behind me because it's kind of a gloomy day right now, so I don't have a lot of natural light like I normally would. The user interface is a sort of custom user interface that runs on top of Google Android here. It will run all sorts of different Google Android applications, and you can access Amazon's App Store for Android to download apps, but instead of the typical Android home screen, you have here sort of a bookshelf that has recently run applications on a carousel, and then a list of your favorites, which you can customize here and underneath. Now, a lot of the custom apps that you see here are not applications that are available from the Amazon App Store, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But in terms of what you're supposed to do with the tablet, we've got a newsstand, we've got, and I don't actually have any news content here right now, but we can take a look at this store, which would be where you would subscribe to periodicals. We've got the bookstore, which, or actually the bookshelf, which shows both ebooks that you've purchased from Amazon and are stored online in your account, and those that have been downloaded to your device for offline reading. And we can click on one and open it. And, you know, the reading experience is decent. Page turns, I've noticed, sometimes feel a little bit slow, but most of the time it's pretty decent. And you can adjust the fonts and other settings, and one of the really nice things here is that your progress will be synchronized across different Amazon devices. So if you're running the Amazon app on your iPad or your iPhone or your Android phone, your last read page will show up on each of them, your bookmarks will show up on each of them. You get certain extra features if you're using a Kindle or a Kindle Fire, though, such as the ability to have an email address that you can send personal documents to. Personal documents include PDF files or ebooks. You can convert an ebook from, say, EPUB to Mobi using a third-party application, and then email it to yourself and read it on here and access it on any Kindle device, but not just devices with the Kindle app. I believe that feature may be coming later to the Android Kindle application. Now, you'll notice that reading is a full-screen experience here, and there are a couple of other things that are also full-screen experiences, but there's no home button, there's no back button, so what you do is you tap the screen and you get a menu here which pops up. Now, this menu will be different on different screens, but in the Kindle application we've got home, back, fonts, menu, and search. Here there's no back button at all, but if we go into, say, the music store or the music application, we've got home, back, menu, and search, and these are sort of the buttons that you would get on most Android devices as hardware buttons, but here they're all software buttons. Again, if you have Amazon MP3 music purchases, you can see everything that's stored in your cloud account, and you can download some of that for offline playback. There's only 8 gigabytes of storage here, and only 6 gigabytes usable for users, because 2 gigs are basically reserved for Amazon, and there's no SD card slot, so you can't expand the storage. So really, this device comes in handy for streaming content from Amazon servers or from Netflix or other streaming the services. You can stream music, you can stream movies, but you can download some stuff to that 6 gigabytes of storage. I guess the idea, though, is that you wouldn't carry around your entire music collection, your entire movie collection, but if you're going on a trip, if you're going to fly in an airplane or be somewhere else where you're not going to have access to Wi-Fi, you can download some of your music and movies. And you can also go online and purchase content. So we've got the Amazon Music Store. Video Store works very much the same way, and this is the first Android device to have the Amazon Instant Video service. Amazon Prime users can, for $79 a year, in addition to getting free 2-day shipping, you can view thousands of movies and TV shows for free, well, for $79 a year. You can also rent movies, purchase movies, TV shows, and so forth, and see the stuff that you've downloaded to your device for offline playback or stream content that you've previously purchased. Docs is where your personal documents would show up. Applications, we've got a sort of drawer here showing all of the apps, and to add anything to your home screen you would just tap, hold, and say add to favorites, or remove from device if you want to uninstall it. And again, we can see everything that you've purchased from the Amazon App Store as well as things that are downloaded to your device. So you can go to Cloud and say I want to download this app even though I've previously purchased it. Or you can go to the App Store and purchase applications from here. There's the Silk web browser, which Amazon has been promoting, which allows you to access various websites relatively quickly, but it's not necessarily as super fast as you would expect. Amazon's made a lot of claims that it was going to be one of the fastest browsing experiences around because they're using remote server compression to basically compress web content before sending it to your device, and also using your browsing habits to determine how it is that you use your device, and then pre-render certain web content. But the problem is it's just not really that fast, that much faster than other third-party applications. You do have pinch to zoom, and you do have, I guess you don't have double tap to zoom. Overall, a decent browsing experience and tabs at the top, which I really like, but it's not necessarily that much better than other web browsers that I've used. And I do prefer the Dolphin web browser, which is not available from the Amazon App Store, but there are a lot of things that are not available from the Amazon App Store that you can get working. So for instance, you can install a third-party application launcher like Go Launcher X. This was, for a couple of days, available from the Amazon App Store. It still is if you're not using the Kindle Fire, but Amazon doesn't seem to want to let you download it from the Kindle Fire. This is an application that replaces that home screen, that custom home screen that we saw, with one that looks more like a traditional Android experience. And you can download this from other places on the internet and use it as sort of a staging ground where you have a couple of shortcuts at the bottom, you have the persistent buttons for home, menu, and back. You can put widgets on the home screen and so forth. And I think it provides a nice alternative to Android's system. And you can even set it as your default home screen if you want to. Also, if you want to root the tablet, it's not that difficult to do. Rooting is sort of like jailbreaking. It's opening up access to settings that wouldn't otherwise be available. And one of the key advantages there is instead of accessing the 20,000 or so applications from the Amazon App Store, you can install the full Google Android market and access hundreds of thousands of applications. It's not perfect. Not every application is available on this tablet, but it might be possible that somebody could figure out a fix for that eventually. You can find instructions for how to root the device and how to install the Android market at lilliputian.com. As I mentioned before, in terms of viewing angles, pretty good. So you should be able to read a book or watch a movie. Even if you put this down on a table, you should be able to read the text fairly well. It's not quite as fast or not quite as responsive and sometimes in some places as the Nook tablet. And it's hard to say if that's because of the software, the custom software that's running, or if it's because of the fact that this has 512 megs of RAM versus the 1 gigabyte of RAM on the Nook tablet. I've noticed the Amazon Kindle application, for instance, is a new version that's not available for other Android devices, and it's much larger, much more resource intensive. That might be part of the reason that we see those slow page turns. It's also not quite as comfortable to hold, and I think that's because if you look at the Nook tablet, it has rounded edges and rounded corners, and this has just sort of barely rounded corners, so that when you hold it, it sort of digs into your palm if you're holding with one hand. Much more comfortable to hold with two hands. But it's not particularly uncomfortable, and it's not necessarily a bad choice because it is fairly light at just over 14 ounces. But overall, I find that the Nook tablet's a little bit easier to hold for long periods, feels a little bit more snappy and responsive. I generally prefer the hardware in the Nook tablet, but the software ecosystem is pretty good on the Amazon Kindle Fire, especially if you already use Amazon MP3, Amazon Instant Video, and Amazon's Kindle ebook service. This is Brad Linder with Liliputing and the Amazon Kindle Fire.